Welcome, everybody. We're back with another part of our Versus System series. This is going to be focused on getting started with the game. So, sort of some basic resources, where to look to buy it, how to acquire it, how to maybe make some decks. So it's sort of the overview. If you're interested in kind of getting started, this is the video for you. Andy is going to be our maestro here because he is actually the Versus System fan number one. I am pretty much a noob.
I
So
love Versus System. So
it's like your first love, right? It's never forget.
it's such a good game. Like I really think everybody needs to try playing Versus System at least once in their life. It's it's literally just like a perfect game.
I
I don't
just
know.
don't like comic book stuff that much. Like it just doesn't do the anyways. But that's my own personal baggage.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's all good. It is what it is. We all can't be correct like me. Um, but yeah, so Versus System. So we did an intro video a little while ago that kind of went over some of the history of it. So this one is more going to be about how to get started. So just a quick recap. Versus System is a Marvel DC. There's also a Hellboy set, which is whatever it is, whatever
Like
company made
Image
Hellboy.
Comics or something.
I forget. But anyway, so except for the Hellboy set, it's basically just Marvel and DC. So play characters. You can play locations, which are green. You've got equipment. I don't have any equipment here. Equipment's pretty terrible. You don't actually like play equipment. And then you play plot twists, which are blue. So those are the only 4 card types that are in the game. So it's pretty straightforward. As far as the game itself goes, there's 3 major formats, but for all intents and purposes, only these days everybody only plays one format. But the formats are Golden Age, Silver Age, and Modern. Um, and that evolved over the course of the game. When the game first came out, there was just Versus System, and then like halfway through, after they put out like 10 sets, 8 or 10 sets, they were like, well, we need to kind of rotate to keep the game fresh. Rotation happens in a lot of games, most notably like Magic, right? So they created at the time it was Golden Age and Modern. Um, but then as more sets came out, they rotated again, and then it became Golden Age, Silver Age, and Modern. So Golden Age encompasses all sets from the start of the game to the end of the game. Silver Age encompasses, I'm going to say, Marvel Avengers through till the end of the game. And then Modern is technically it's supposed to be the last 2 DC sets and the last 2 Marvel sets, but most people play it as the last 4 sets, which are 3 Marvel and 1 DC, because those last 4 sets, if you notice, most of the cards have this frame, and this is the old frame. The new framed cards here are from the last 4 sets when they redesigned the game. And the redesign really happened because the game, as I mentioned in the previous video, was designed by a bunch of professional Magic players to be like a perfect competitive game. And they didn't really care what the characters were. So, like, one of my favorite decks, which was really popular right around the time that they split, right around the time they did the very first rotation, was this deck called New School, which was a deck that teamed up Doctor Doom and Gotham Knights and Fearsome Five, and there were some other people in it. And like, if you think about that, you're like, oh, cool, like Doom and Batman are teaming up, but it's not. Like, you're using there's some Doctor Doom cards in there. Like, Doctor Doom's really powerful, but more it's so that you can use Boris and Alfred Pennyworth and team them up with Microchip and Lacuna and Commissioner Gordon and Shimmer, and you're like, who the hell are these characters?
I have
Like,
no idea what you're talking about. You're just like speaking random words to me.
right? So that was the problem with the game. If you try to get a broad audience that are going to be like, oh, a Marvel Comics, DC Comics card game, I would love to play that and have Wolverine and Punisher team up against Superman and Professor X. That sounds like a lot of fun. That the game that you want is Overpower, not Versus System, right? And like the problem was is that you couldn't get the community of comic book fans to really enjoy Versus System as much because the best decks were like Detective Chimp and Dr. Light and like all these characters. You're just like, who? This character's like a D level character from a 1950s Golden Age DC comic. What the hell are you guys doing? Right. So the last 4 sets, Upper Deck, which was the company that made it, decided to revamp it and they focused it around like the major characters. So there's like this like pretty big shift in the way the game played, and then they had like crazy power creep with those cards too. So that's kind of like Golden Age, Silver Age, Modern. Most people don't play Modern only. It's not really balanced very well, and Silver Age is interesting. But if you're going to play Silver Age, you might as well just play Golden Age. So everybody basically just plays Golden Age, which is the entire run of all the cards. There's some super powerful decks that are just really dumb, but for the most part, everybody plays Golden Age, except, and then so there used to be like a players committee, players council. There isn't really one that's active anymore. It's just kind of run by the people that still actively play the game. And it's kind of come to consensus that Golden Age is everything except for the very last set. The last set was so absurdly power creeped that like it just ruins the game. So the whole last set is basically banned from play. So if you want to learn some more about Versus System, well, probably the last main like bastion of Versus System is unfortunately on Facebook. So you get to go to Facebook, and it is this. It's called a Versus System Collective. So if you search Facebook for Versus System Collective, there's 2,000 people that are members, but there's really probably only like a couple hundred people that like really actively talk about Versus System, and then there's probably less than that that are like really playing Versus System in any type of fashion. And a lot of it there's some talk about strategy, but because everybody plays Golden Age for the most part, the best decks are pretty much a known quantity, and there's no like unlike say the Star Wars Players Committee or like Star Trek or Lord of the Rings, where they'll like make new virtual cards. There's really no virtual cards getting made, so it's whatever's out there is out there. So there's like a very defined set of what are the best decks to play.
So is it kind of like, has the game kind of been solved? Because I know that also happens with some dead CCGs where it's solved. It's like, here's the meta, right? And here's how you win.
There is here's the meta, but because there's so many cards and the game can become so complex, it's almost impossible to like solve it and be like, this is clearly the best deck and will beat all other decks. And then if that did happen, probably the community would just be like, yeah, we're going to ban this one card or something. But yeah, there's so it's not so. I mean, there's some people talking about decks that they are building, that you'll see, and some strategies. But for the most part, a lot of it has turned into buy, sell, trade group because there are a lot of promo cards for this game that are very difficult to acquire. Also, last couple of sets were so short printed that they can be very difficult to find. and most people are trying to foil out their decks because you have like, you know, a pet deck or something like that you want to play. So you want to try and foil it out because every card in the game is foil except for like a couple. But so it's, you know, people still chase it. You can play it online through Octagon. I wonder, I can't remember if I think somewhere in the files here are like the card images that you need to download into Octagon to play, which is, you know, same type of thing as like Tabletop Simulator, GAMP, or, you know, any of the like online platforms to play a card game online. They just happen to use Octagon. You download the image files and you can upload them and play it online.
First off, I didn't know there was a file part of Facebook. That's a new part. But if is there a Discord that people kind of hang out on, like to coordinate?
There is a Discord, yeah. Let me see if I can.
I guess like one of my big questions is if I'm coming into this game like this, I love Marvel stuff, I love DC, and I want to have these characters battle. Like, what is the on ramp for me, right? Like, what are the first steps? Like, step one, maybe join the Facebook group or the Discord. But what's like?
I would join the Facebook group, and so if you have, there's a couple of different ways you could go about it. If you want to play, like, you could just be like, I love Spider-Man or I love Wolverine. I want to play a Wolverine deck. You could go build a Wolverine deck. You could build a Spider-Man deck. You could also say, what are the decks that most people play? And you'll be able to find resources for that. There's actually a really great, I'd have to find it in here. There's a gentleman over in France that put together, it has like 180 different decks in it with deck lists and all that stuff for every format imaginable. It's a great resource. But then your next step would be, so your first step would be figure out what you want to play. Do you want to play like a competitive metagame deck? You can find resources and deck lists for those. Do you want to play a deck that's, you know, you love the Hulk, you love Wolverine, you love Batman, you know, you can find decks to do that. Your next step would be to get cards. You can do that through the Versus System Collective Facebook group. There's lots of buy-sell trade groups or buy-sell trade posts. There's a couple of bigger sellers that will buy and sell things. Most cards are available. You're probably not going to find certain foils or certain promos and stuff, but if you're just looking to play, you should be able to find pretty much everything available. Otherwise, you could go to Category 1 games and play and buy them. Scott Church has like a huge selection of cards. You know, I've bought so much stuff from Category 1 games. I actually even have my Category 1 game shirt on. So shout out to Scott Church for all he does for the Versus.
How much you got to spend to get a free T-shirt, man? I haven't hit that threshold yet.
$10,000.
Oof! It's like the T-shirt says I spent $10,000 and all I got was this T-shirt.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, you can. If you go to Category 1 games and you go down to Versus, all the way down to like 700 different games that he has.
It might be true that Scott has too many games. That might be true, possibly, in my opinion. It's like
it could be. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's people who are playing all these different things.
Maybe we should create a game where it's a random game generator from this list, and then we have to play it. It's like, so we have to learn.
Yeah, I mean, some of these I've never heard of. Like, I don't know what Hum Aliens are, or some of this stuff. I've never even heard of Club Penguin Card Jitsu. Like, never heard of that. But anyway, so scroll all the way down here to Versus System, and then you can go. It'll bring you to all the different sets, and it's set up. So you got your DC sets up top, and you got your Marvel sets. it's not laid out by like release set, but basically the base set is DC Origins and Marvel Origins. Those are your two like original sets. And then, but you know, if you're like, oh, I really love the Avengers, there's an Avengers, or I really love X-Men, there's X-Men, or I really love Superman. Well, the Superman set's really terrible. Don't really waste your time with Superman. But there's better sets that have Superman support than this set. Is probably one of the worst ones. But like Marvel Knights is like Ghost Rider and Punisher and that type of stuff. Marvel Team Up has a bunch of X-Men stuff in it. You know, Heralds of Galactus is all the cosmic characters like Silver Surfer and Galactus and stuff like that. And then DC, they've got different starter decks. I don't know if this is just individual cards, but you can buy like they have these pre-made decks. So this is a Batman versus Joker starter deck, $6. That's a pretty good price. You've got
these play well with each other.
Yes.
Okay.
They're pretty balanced against each other. This is from the very first set. So if you have ever played Draft in like any game ever, which I'm assuming people have drafted before, hands down, Scott, it doesn't look like Scott has any in stock, but hands down, Marvel Origins, which is the first set that was ever released, is by far the greatest draft format, draft experience you will ever have. Even if you're not a comic book fan, if you're just a CCG fan, do yourself a favor and draft Marvel Origins at some point in your life. It is a game changer when it comes to the experience of drafting and building decks. It's just probably like the best designed CCG set of any card game ever. Period. Full stop. That's my hot take. But yeah, you can go on here by, you know, it's not really that expensive either, you know, $50, $40. You can, you know, packs are $2 a pack. You know, you can buy a bunch of different stuff. You might get into some more expensive stuff, like, so Marvel Legends is one of the last sets to come out, so packs, you know, $25, but you know, you could get a lot of early versus system stuff very cheap. You know, you do have to be careful about some stuff. You got, you know, DC Comic Legends has some incredibly expensive cards in it.
So let's go to step 2. So you've acquired some cards, maybe
Yeah.
some pre-made decks. Is the game relatively easy to learn to play, or, you know, is there a solitaire option if you don't have friends?
There's not a solitaire option. The game is deceptively easy in that you take a card from your hand, you play it face down, it counts as a resource. You can play one resource a turn. Cards have a cost to them. So like if I look at this Hal Jordan, he costs 3. He's power 4, toughness 5, for lack of a better term. And you can tap him, you can remove him from the game, and then search your deck and put a card from your deck into your hand as his power. But basically, he's a 4/5 for 3, and you can play him out and you can attack your opponent with him. It's easy in the same way Magic is easy. So if you grasp the basic concepts of Magic after, you know, 10 minutes of listening to how to play it, Versus System is the same thing. If you want to be like really, really good at playing Versus System, it's the same thing as Magic. It'll take you 15 years to be like, you know, phenomenal at the game. But it's not hard to play. You can play it, like I said, you can play it online. There is also, they have, in an attempt to, I guess, update the game, there's a thing called that some of the guys over at the Versus System Collective have done, which is called Marvel Remix. Let me see if I can pull it up. Marvel Remix is, let me see if I can share this screen here really quick. Marvel Remix is a way to do print and play So you can either have all the cards printed just on like paper and you just cut them out and play, or you could potentially get these printed through Make Playing Cards. But some of them are straight ports of existing Upper Deck cards. It's the exact same card, cost, deploy, teams, what the ability is. Some of them are just brand new cards, and there's a lot of different cards that they've put out, a few hundred different cards. And they'll do, when they run tournaments online on Octagon, they'll alternate between like remix sets or original Upper Deck sets. And that's mostly because the metagame has been fairly solved as far as like the metagame for like Golden Age, But if you get remix sets in here, you can get some new, like a different new Batman or something.
I mean, the cards look great. I just want to put that out there. I haven't really spent too much time looking at the cards, but they look really cool, to be honest. So this is the kind of
remix. Yeah, these are all remixed cards, and there's a bunch of different.
Can you? We will share a link to that in the video notes here. I guess it's a Google Drive.
Yeah. So yeah, you can. That's probably the easiest way to play the game. I would suggest, if you don't want to go all in and buy a deck, just print and play the decks that you want. That off of Remix, it's the same game. They've updated it to have some new cards. They've moved some characters around onto different teams and stuff, but it's basically the exact same thing. You'll get the same experience. And if you really like what you get there, you can either keep going with Remix stuff, and they put out new sets maybe like a couple times a year, or you can go and try and put together a Golden Age deck. I would just, again, warn you that some of the cards are just incredibly expensive. But for the most part, like most of the early sets, it's like very, very cheap. So, it depends on how you want to go with that. But if you're interested in Versus System, I'd head over to Versus System Collective on Facebook. Join. You can ask some questions, look at deck lists, look at all the remix stuff they've got going on. You can find out more about how they do online tournaments. It's a really great group of individuals that are there that are super passionate about Versus System. They've been playing it for years and years and years now at this point. And it's all, they're very welcoming. So go over and ask questions and check out what they got. And if you like what you see, head on over to our friend Scott Church, Category 1 Games, and buy a bunch of Versus System cards, because you're not going to go wrong with this game. It's absolutely fantastic.
I love hearing such ringing endorsements, Andy. Well, this sounds like a lot of fun. Maybe you can teach me to play. I think we're going to do some deck stuff. If people want specific Versus System content, please leave a comment below. We're happy to kind of get to more niche topics. We're just delving into this and kind of dipping our toes in the water here. But remember to like, subscribe. If we hit 1,000 subscribers, we're going to do a little party video, something fun. But Andy, kind of final thoughts here?
Final thoughts. My final thought is that Versus System is my favorite card game of all time.
That says a lot. You've played a lot. I feel like we should have said that at the front end, but that says a lot. You've played a lot of card games. So
I have. I own a lot of card games. I have extensive collections for lots of things. I think in the end, maybe the card game The Spoils has like a slightly better overall game mechanics. They fixed a couple of things that are like, or they didn't fix, they added some additional things that make for some interesting gameplay. But so I really love The Spoils too, which builds on Versus System. Versus System being the first of the 3 games that all have this kind of same core mechanic: Versus System, WoW, and The Spoils. But Versus System has, my favorite. I love Marvel and DC and comics. So like,
Yeah, it's real IP versus something that some guy thought of in his bedroom. So I
I,
guess they
I
thought,
love Versus System. You gotta try it. It's just like the greatest CCG of all time, hands down.
all right, well, let's end it there. Hope everyone enjoyed it, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.